Hi everyone, my name's Hilary. I'm the direct consumer manager here at Zaca Mesa Winery. Joining me today is
Chris.
none other than Chris, aka Fish, as some of you may know him. Today we are going to taste through our April Club Release wines, starting with one of our favorites, the 2022 Rosé of Grenache. Some of you may not know this, but Fish used to pour for us in the tasting room and then found his love for the cellar and joined production side of things. So the 22 vintage is his first vintage where he was a part of the team.
Oh, she's pretty.
Oh my gosh. I find that when you have a wine that has a nose that just draws you in and all you want to do is smell it and you don't even care if you drink it, that's a good wine.
Yep, that's a good wine. Beautiful color, kind of coral.
Yeah, it's almost just like a kiss of color.
A little bit. Delicate acid, well integrated. Lots of citrus going on there. Lots of grapefruit.
Very
Very bright. A little bit of raspberry notes coming off of that.
I like the balance between the citrus and the red fruits that come through.
Yes.
It's really lovely.
It's got a lot of texture on the palate.
That's what Zaca Mesa's rosés are known for. We don't shy away from texture. We want you to be able to enjoy your rosé on its own or with a meal.
Yeah.
What would you?
For me, with food, definitely going a kind of luscious seafood. Angel hair pasta, a little shrimp and some garlic butter, halibut piccata. Anything that's got some kind of briny kind of richness to it, I think will pair beautifully with the rosé. For me, I don't need food with rosé.
Yeah.
I need good company and a nice day, and it'll be, just as good. But it's a beautiful vintage. I'm excited to share it with everybody.
The cloudy days that we've been experiencing lately definitely still invite rosé to be enjoyed. It doesn't have to be in the spring or summer. It is a year-round wine.
Yep, absolutely.
We just happen to release it in the spring.
We just happen to release it in the spring. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. And Grenache, obviously. Mariposa blocks. Some of the older vines that we have on the property, which is nice. Tends to be a little bit more of a tedious process to produce rosé with an older vine because we can't extract too much tannin or pigment from those grapes. So a little bit more kind of finesse goes into producing our rosé, which is nice. I really like to. It's nice to be meticulous with things.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah,
There's a
absolutely.
lot of love that goes into producing this rosé. So we're all very excited when it's released and can't wait for you all to enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Wine number 2 in the lineup is our 2019 Roussanne.
The Red Drinker's White. It's got some kind of like honeycomb beeswax going on in there.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of like a white flower almost.
Lots of minerality. It's got this flinty kind of smoky note. It's beautiful.
One thing to note about Roussanne is, as Fish said, it is one of those varieties that it drinks like a red wine. So because of the beautiful texture and mouthfeel, a lot of red wine drinkers will be drawn to this when they may have never enjoyed a white.
Never had
So
a
if
white.
you have some red wine drinkers who swear that they do not like whites, pour this for them and you will change their minds.
Also, ageability.
Yeah.
Let it relax. Let it rest for a few years. I mean, I've tasted Roussanne vintages that have had 18 years of aging, and they are beautiful. Just essentially, with most wines, just let that acid, those tannins just become integrated in bottle. It's essentially like turning a burlap sack into a silk sheet. Just let it do what the wine wants to do. And Roussanne really kind of envelops that for aging, so.
Yeah, if you have
Delicious.
the patience to lay it down, you'll definitely be rewarded. I do not have patience for laying down any wines. I rely on Zaca Mesa to take care of that for me, so.
I'm the complete opposite. I will sit on wines until they're probably past their prime, but it's just bad habit.
So as a Roussanne ages, those honeyed notes become a little bit more pronounced. The color will start to develop and become a little bit richer. All around a beautiful wine in its youth and in its maturity.
In its maturity, yeah. Definitely
absolutely.
one of my favorites. As far as food goes, anything that has a kind of sweet component to the meal, I usually associate that with kind of like a Thanksgiving feast.
I just had some amazing garlic mashed potatoes last night, and this would complement that perfectly.
Yeah, it tends to break up the kind of richness and sweetness that you have with those kind of big meals, those big family meals. It definitely has a little bit more there on the palate, as you know, rather than like a Chardonnay or a Grenache Blanc, because it's got the texture, it's got the oak presence, it's got the minerality, it's also got the fruit and the acid. So I feel like it's just a little bit more variables that you get to play with on the palate as you're having it with the meal.
We're gonna move on to wine number 3, which is our
Mourvèdre
2018. So Mourvèdre is typically a blending grape. You'll find those in GSM, which is a Grenache Syrah Mourvèdre classic Rhone style blend from the Rhone region of France. Luckily, we get to play around with some of those same varieties here. Mourvèdre is a fantastic variety all on its own. Characteristically, can have some smoky quality, almost a gaminess to it.
Almost a gaminess, yeah. It's one of my favorite varietals because it varies a lot. It can be big, bold, and tannic, like you know some of the best Syrahs, or it can be delicate and a little bit brighter, like a Pinot Noir. Definitely one of my favorites just to sip on. I prefer this as a sipping wine out back, you know, playing a game of cards. It's very elegant when it comes to the palate. You get a lot of kind of smokiness, a lot of leather, some kind of fresh tobacco. We use nothing but neutral oak for our Mourvèdre program, so we want that varietal to kind of shine through instead of the cooperage, which I think does a really, really good job. Love it. Lots of acidic red fruits, cherries and pomegranates.
As the wine sits in your glass, some of the more dominant flavors start to mellow out and the fruit starts to come through a little bit more. Which I absolutely love in this variety.
It also has this awesome herbaceousness on the finish that comes out, and that's imparted from the terroir of our vineyard. There's a lot of kind of native California sagebrush and toyon and all the chaparral that grows within the property that really lends that kind of herbaceousness to certain blocks on our property. And Mourvèdre really, really picks that up nicely.
You're talking about, you know, sitting in the backyard, hanging out, playing cards. This to me is a great barbecue wine. Loves some charred, I would say meats, but you can do charred vegetables as well.
Absolutely.
And as long as you get a little bit more of that like smoky grilled flavor, it will complement this wine beautifully.
Yeah, absolutely. Even like cured meats, I feel like this would go really nicely with some cured meats, some nice kind of creamy decadent cheeses. It's got a lot going on the palate to kind of break those up, which is, you know, nice for a food wine. But I love Mourvèdre so much, I'd not want to ruin it with, you know, adding extra to my palate. I'd rather just sip on the wine. It's one of my favorite varietals. It's one of the most underrated varietals too. A lot of guests, you know, that I've talked to have been like, "Oh, we've never tried 100% Mourvèdre." Usually it's masked between a blend, and you know, once I, you know, give them a taste of it, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is eye-opening." You know, and then they start to source out 100% Mourvèdres, which is nice to be able to kind of introduce that to new palates.
That's one of my favorite parts of this wine is the wow factor.
Yeah.
When people finally try it for the first time, especially as a standalone, single vintage or single varietal, they are blown away by it. And how fun to be able to expose someone to a new variety.
Expose them to a new varietal, yeah, and they love it. It's very unique. If I would do this with a protein, I would have to go with a leaner protein. I feel like the tannin is very soft within the Mourvèdre, and usually when I have a big tannin wine, I want a little bit more fat content within a protein. So like filet, maybe a pork loin, something that's a little leaner, won't mask the vintage too much. So
I could see this with like a grilled pork loin with grilled peaches or grilled stone fruit
a little cherry compote on it. Yeah,
that would be really, really good to enjoy with this.
A little mushroom risotto, bring some earthiness to it. Absolutely. Getting
hungry.
Creme de la creme.
Next up, we've got the 2019 8-barrel Syrah.
Another one of my favorites. 100% Syrah.
8-barrel was one of the first Syrahs when I joined the team that really hooked me on our style, and I was blown away by the aromatics that were present on that wine. And let's see if it happens again.
Lots of vanilla and ripe raspberries and strawberries. A little bit of smoke and that same herbaceousness from the vineyard. 8-barrel is one of my favorite food pairing wines. Again, super versatile for heavy proteins, but also for the sweeter side of the menu. I like 8-barrel with cheesecake or vanilla ice cream with berries, creme brulee. It has a lot of ripe fruit notes, which I feel lend itself better to the sweeter side rather than the savory side of the menu. But as far as proteins, I would go wild game 100%. Bring some earthiness, some grittiness to it, maybe a little venison backstrap, some chanterelles, because we are in California. But it's a beautiful expression of Syrah.
I always want to pair some type of a fruit compote or something with this wine, and if you do have a gamier meat, that can get balanced out with the fruit.
Absolutely.
But this wine has, it's like dark fruits.
A little bit of chocolate on there too.
There's a little bit of
beautiful finish, lots of texture. It's a very kind of plushy, soft tannin structure, which is really, really nice for a Syrah. Again, let them age for a little while. Let that burlap sack turn into a silk sheet. Let the wine bottle chemistry just kind of do its thing, and it's just going to get better and better every year. I believe this has a little bit of chapel in there. Yeah, I believe chapel was one of the main blocks that we use for blending 8-barrel, which chapel is obviously one of the Syrah blocks that we have here that produces some of the better quality fruit. You may have tasted it in Chapel G, but it's just a beautiful expression of the terroir of the vineyard and the quality fruit that we produce here at Zaca.
8-barrel has an interesting story. It was originally started by a winemaker at the time, Daniel Gers. A little bit of an experiment. His original concept was to let the fruit sit and the pressure of the grapes basically extract the juice themselves.
Free flow, entire tanks of Syrah rather than press. And the theory on that is essentially not to press out a lot of the seed and skin tannins that you would do when you press the vintage. So he would free flow it and just drain the tanks into barrels. In the first vintage that he did, he drained 8 barrels worth of juice. And that's how it got its name. We
make far more than 8 barrels now,
yes.
But we definitely wanted to continue on with the name in honor of Daniel Gers. So it'll still be called 8-barrel to this day, but
far more produced, not by many, but definitely way more than the 8 original. We don't free flow anymore though, unfortunately. That is just such a long, tedious process. And during the midst of harvest, it's not necessarily the most effective.
It's essentially turned into a cooperage program.
Yeah, cooperage program, essentially, yeah.
Kristen, our winemaker and GM, is selecting her favorite barrels that she likes to age in. So it's usually the best of the best that go into creating this wine. So you'll get a lot of those spice qualities coming through from the barrel and the grapes themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so good. It's so good. Just the vanilla. It literally, to me, it smells like a vanilla sundae with fruit compote and like chocolate on top of it. Another one of those wines that I could just sip on in front of the fireplace, cuddle with the cat and read a book. It's just, wine doesn't need food in my opinion.
It doesn't. It enhances it.
It enhances it, but there's
your meal necessarily.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into producing a bottle of wine that, share it with people. share it with your friends, or situations that are going to leave an impression on you while enjoying that bottle. It just brings the bottle a little bit more to life rather than a food that you might not remember you ate the next week. So share with people.
Yeah.
Share with people,
That's
100%.
essential. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Here's to a happy April club release. And
Yes.
We hope you
enjoy
all
all
the
of them.
wines.
Yes. We worked very hard on these, and we're very excited for you all to try them.